Welcome to the My Blockchain Island podcast. For all the latest info on DLT, blockchain, startups, Malta, and beyond. Here's your hostess, Carla Marie.
Hi everyone, and welcome to My Blockchain Island. What used to be a podcast and now turned into some kind of web studio, thanks to a very kind entrepreneur and friend of mine, Alex from Chili's. So now we have this beautiful space where you get to see me and hear me, and it's going to be great. So let's just jump straight into the show. Today I'm here with a very special guest, Jarno from Otmore, a very good friend of mine. Jarno, welcome.
Thank you so much, Carla.
Great.
Nice to be here.
We have had several experiences within the trademark, IP, and patent kind of discussions before, right? In that
correct.
space.
That's correct.
Would you like to tell the audience a little bit about what you do?
Absolutely. I'm the founder and CEO of Otmore. We are a traditional IP law firm, but we work with untraditional ways, you can say. We are focusing on the online industry to actually be a proactive partner to help them to actually be able to launch their products and into new markets without experiencing the usual problems when it comes to mainly trademark relating infringements.
Cool. So when we look at the landscape, I mean, crypto probably and blockchain don't have too many cases so far in this space. However, your company has experienced a lot of these cases in the past, right?
Yes.
Maybe you could just give our listeners a little bit of an idea of a case in this space that an entrepreneur that went tragically wrong.
Absolutely. There is a lot of them, unfortunately. When it comes to, you can say that the trademark industry has changed a lot the last 10 years. And this is, of course, because of the online industry. The online industry means that you are always showing everything online, which means it's very easy to other parties to actually find out if you're infringing on their trademark, for example. I used to say that everything is an open book today. If you compare how it actually worked for, let's say, 15 years ago, you had to go into, for example, a physical store to actually check out if somebody is infringing on your trademark.
Sure.
Today is much more easier. And this gives the online companies a much greater challenge to actually be able to launch their products in a good way and without problems. So I have been working in the industry for almost 14 years now, and started Otmore 4 years ago just because I saw a gap between the traditional IP industry, law firms that are focusing on IP, and the online industry. It's the traditional way to handle these kind of questions is in a very reactive way, and when you are online, you are not able to actually, the reactive steps is a large hindrance for your actually approach to the market. So what we are trying to do is that we have a proactive workflow for our clients that makes it a little bit more easier to actually launch your product without experiencing the normal risks.
Sure.
And unfortunately, people are not talking about these problems.
No. So you talk a lot about being proactive as a startup, right?
Of course,
Or even as a company. We're just talking about like Sky. This is quite an example. This is like a Skype, and Sky, huge companies in the space making mistakes in trademarks.
Of course.
So now I feel a little bit more at ease, because as a humble startup, it's only natural that we're going to make these kind of problems ourselves, right? So my thought is this. Now, you're talking about how trademark and the process is all digital, but also registering a domain, creating a logo is all very digitalized nowadays.
Of course.
So how do you, as a startup entrepreneur in the blockchain space, because this show's about blockchain, How do you counter having massive trademark issues?
Yeah, you can say that as long as you are online, you have the same problems, whether you are in the blockchain sector, or if you are in the iGaming sector, or you are in the e-commerce.
Yep.
It's the same kind of problems that are occurring. So the problems that I saw for 12 years ago in the e-commerce sector, those were transferred to the iGaming sector. They're exactly the same problems. And now the blockchain comes.
Sure.
So you can really see the same kind of mistakes that people are doing in the blockchain sector as well. And I think the main thing is that you actually launch and set up a name without actually doing a prior checkup. So the most important thing before you launch is to really do your homework correctly.
Okay.
Check if the name is actually possible to register. That is number one. Is it descriptive for the industry? For example, you are not able to trademark a name as blockchain for actually blockchain. You are not able to trademark the wording coffee for groceries, because they are very descriptive for the kind of goods. So that is number one thing. The number two thing is that really make sure that nobody else has prior registration.
And how can you check that?
You can do that by actually, for example, contacting us.
Okay.
We have today a database covering 62 jurisdictions, about 60 million registered trademarks. So we can do a checkup, and of course for your listeners we will do that for free.
Cool.
And what we do is that we run the name into the system, and out comes the result, very easy. And it gives you some kind of guidance if it's possible to register or not.
Okay, and that would be not registering the domain per se, but it's actually registering the trademark your
yes,
name,
exactly.
right? Yeah, just to be very specific.
Correct. It's very important that you separate those two things. The domain name is still an address on the internet. A trademark is a registration that you can get through an authority, for example, through for a Malta jurisdiction or for the EU jurisdiction.
Exactly, and that's another thing that I was going to say.
Yeah.
It's not just, your trademarks need to be applicable for the jurisdictions that you're working in, right?
Correct.
Specifically with China, there's been a couple of interesting cases I
There are,
recall.
yeah. Now you can say that I did a little checkup before our meeting, and I did run, even if I just told you that it's impossible to actually trademark the name blockchain for blockchain. People have tried,
of course.
And I actually found over 700 applications within our systems.
Okay.
And
would that be the word blockchain within a string?
Exactly, both that and also by itself.
Yeah. Okay.
But what we can see from that is that about 75% of these are made from Asia.
Okay.
And still they are absolutely one of the leading parts of the world when it comes to the blockchain technology, but Europe is coming very rapidly as well. But we are very much behind when it comes to actually protecting your name. What you really need to understand as well is that even if you do your marketing correct, you do your ICO correct, if you don't have a protection for your name, what is it worth?
It's true. Let's talk. Actually, that's a good jumping point for the Saga and King story.
Yeah.
Which you know it's pretty much how you and I actually met.
Absolutely.
Shall you tell the story?
I can do that. There is, as I mentioned before, talking about IP relating problems today is not so common, because you don't really want to say that I didn't do my homework correct. The thing is that within the iGaming sector we don't have many public cases today, but we have one that has been pretty well known here in Malta, and that is Casino Saga against King.com and Candy Crush Saga. And
I have seen a blockchain company put Saga into their name.
You have?
Yeah, I saw it last week, and I was just like, oh my God, here we go again.
It can be a problem.
Yeah.
It's also a little bit. It's not so the strategy behind why you actually go after a similar name can be a little bit more complex than that. As
saga means, challenge, adventure, So from just like a logical perspective, I'm sure that when George sat down there and started thinking about, George is the entrepreneur, by the way, I'm sure he didn't think, let me be evil and take the same name as King's Candy Crush Saga. The thought process doesn't even begin like that. But the amounts lost in marketing and brand exposure and whatnot were highly upsetting for him and for the team and for the investors.
And the investors as well. And I think the main problem when these kind of problems occur is that the whole company, gets into a pause mode. So nothing happens. We are only focusing on the issue, which means that your goals and so on, they are actually left behind at that moment. So it's so important that you really make sure that you do the pre-checks, the pre-name searching before you launch, so you don't become in the middle of these kind of problems, because they are really stressing you up, the whole company.
Yeah, of course, it's critical. So can we just take it like a little bit of a step back and just go through the process? So as an entrepreneur, you would start off and say, okay, I found the domain that I love. I've probably bought it because I don't want to wait, because I've been so excited to find this domain. And the next step would be that I would contact you for a potential consultation to check the name in your database.
Yes.
And then the next step would be the registration of the domain.
Precisely.
Right. How much does that cost? Like what is the proactive upfront cost of avoiding all this later?
Precisely. This is also, I think, a common saying within when I'm talking to entrepreneurs, that everybody thinks it's very expensive to do the first steps within the registration process, and it's not. It's going to be expensive if you don't do it correctly. But for example, including all the fees from our side, the official fees to the European Trademark Authority, EUIPO, the classification work and so on, it's about 1,500 euros to actually get a protection for your trademark. And that is covered in the whole European Union for 10 years. So, and
that to me, that's just like a no-brainer cost for any company that's planning to
Absolutely. And you can also sleep a little bit better during the night if you do that correctly. And also one important thing is that, because I know that many of your listeners and viewers are they're very technical, competent people, and they probably know a lot of domain names. And it's also important to understand that when it comes to trademark rights, if you have a trademark protection, it is actually possible to get a domain name back that somebody has registered and are actually infringing on your registered mark.
That's good.
That is not possible if you don't have a registered trademark. So if you see it as an umbrella organization, you can say that on top here you have the trademark protection, and afterwards you have the domain names, you have your website and so on. So without actually the trademark protection, it's very hard for you to actually make sure that nobody else is infringing on your rights.
Absolutely.
And I think that one of the most important things, we have only talked about the proactive steps here, the protection and not infringing on somebody else. There is also one other very important thing. It's the value. What is actually happening with the value of your company, your trademark, when you have a registered right? When you are approaching investors, one of the first things that they're actually going to ask you, hopefully, is that, do you have any kind of IP rights?
No, this is a good point, and I think that I've looked at a lot. I've read a lot of white papers, and this is one point that you don't see a lot in white papers. You see a couple of the more technical solutions,
of course,
focusing on patent. so they're trying to patent their technology. And I do have question marks about that, because in the blockchain space, if you're dealing with open source distributed ledger technology, how patentable is that?
It's very hard, you know.
And that's like, that in itself, I'm like, that's quite a challenge. But ultimately, yeah, not a lot of trademark name. In fact, like some of the things I'm seeing, it just like makes me really laugh, because I'm starting to see domains or company names just changing letters. So they'll change instead of an I, they'll make it a Y.
Yeah,
you know, instead of for crypto, they'll make the C a K.
Instead. Yeah,
I'm just like, that is just like a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are just like super proud, because like, oh, you know, I secured this one word domain name, and I did it because I changed the C to a K and the I to a Y. And I'm just like, oh no.
Of course.
So I think that these are, you know, like real alarm bells that the sector and the industry need to take thing. Okay, cool. So in these cases of K, C's and Y's, like what's your recommendation here?
Well, this is also something that people thinks will work, that you actually just, you know, change your C to an K and so on. That's not possible within the legal terms of a trademark, because what you are looking on, if you are actually seeing two trademarks and trying to figure out if they are confusingly similar, you are looking at two things. One, are they within the same sector? Are they actually selling the same kind of goods and services?
Okay.
That is one thing. That's why you can see trademarks names.
Well, crypto is crypto.
Crypto
with a K
is
or
crypto.
with a C.
Yeah, exactly. And the second thing is that how is it actually spelled?
Yeah.
And how is it actually pronounced?
Yeah.
So even if you are actually pronouncing the wording at the same way, it's still, you know, confusingly similar. So it doesn't really mean anything if you're changing a C to a K and so on. So that is also very important. So you have to be a little bit more creative.
Okay.
The trademark industry has, because of the online industry as well, has had a very, you know, rapid growth. The latest, you can say, 12 to 15 years. There are a lot of new trademark applications, and there's almost, you know, an increase of about 30 to 40% each year. That means also that the trademark space, is a little bit more narrow today, just as the domain name space. So you have to be both creative when you're actually looking into new names, and try also to find names that are connected to what you do.
Okay.
For example, I do this as an example on my seminars often. Take the name Iglo. Iglo, exactly. Okay. And you can actually find that as an ice cream.
Okay.
So Iglo gives you some kind of you know, feeling that it's cold, it's up in the Arctic, something like that, and it's actually sold as an ice cream brand. So this is a very good trademarkable name, because it gives the consumer some kind of understanding that, okay, what I'm actually
There's a sensory element to it, right?
Exactly. And at the same time, it's not descriptive.
Yeah.
So those are the names that are the best names from our point of view, and that I really recommend to try to find, or pure fantasy wordings.
Made up words.
Made up words.
We've spoken a lot about words, and I know for a fact, I mean, you were talking about Skype and Sky, and I believe that was around their logo, right? The colors and the logo.
Correct.
So can we just jump a little bit into also trademarking of logos then?
Yes, of course.
Because it's really easy nowadays. You go on to 99 Designs. Yep. You just recruit like some random designers. They're not doing any checks or whatever.
No.
And obviously, as humans, we tend to go for something that's like appeals to our senses, which is probably something we've kind of seen somewhere before, that we've kind of liked, and we're thinking, well, this might work. Yep. And then all of a sudden, bam, the logo is trademarked. So how does that work?
Well, at the same way that you actually are trademarking a word, for example, you can trademark a lot of things today. You can trademark a phrase, a wording, a logo. You can even trademark a hologram today.
Okay.
You can, in some cases,
Can you trademark a QR code?
No, that's not possible, unfortunately, because it has to be when you are everything that should be trademarkable must have also an understanding from actually the consumer itself.
Okay.
So if you see a QR code, can you really distinct your product from another product? No, it's not possible. So a logo is of course possible to register. You can also, in some cases, if you can show to the authorities that the public or the consumer has found, for example, a color recognizable with your product.
Yeah.
That is also trademarkable.
Yeah.
For example, Louboutin has got a trademark registration for the red sole. Yes.
Yeah. But you see tons of shoes with red soles now.
Yeah, and they are really going after them.
Like women are actually painting painting the bottom of their shoes with nail varnish.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. But nobody else than Louboutin are actually allowed to use red soles on shoes today.
That's crazy.
Yes.
But that's their signature color and
It
design,
is,
right?
yes.
Okay, so
That's
a design trademark?
No, that's actually a regular trademark, and that is a very hard work from their side. So we just had a decision from European Court just a couple of months ago, which actually showed again because there are other brands trying to cancel that mark, but Louboutin has showed once again that the red sole is very distinctive to actually their shoes, and the consumer, when you're looking at the red sole, are thinking about Louboutin.
Okay. Yeah. Exactly.
So this is really about
exactly.
So this is a very brand building part, I can say.
Cool. Very, very cool. Okay, so let's try and just sum things up a little bit.
Yep.
And I wanted to ask just a final question actually about Otmore.
Yep.
So you've been around for 4 years and you're quite internationalized.
We are, yes.
You've got offices in Malta, but you've also got offices where else?
We have in 2 offices in Spain, one in Marbella and one in Barcelona as well.
Okay.
We have also actually staff in both China and US today.
Okay, great.
They are working for our clients.
Okay.
And except for that, we have our representative network that we meet every year. So it's about 57 agents, representative law firms from other jurisdictions that are specialized and are working in the same way that we are doing. Because as I said before, it's very hard today to really find trademark law firms that understands the online industry, the digital world. So we have really put a lot of effort. So even if you are actually planning to launch in Peru, we have the right representative for you, and we are helping out through the whole process.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see how trademarks are going to work in the distributed nature of crypto, actually.
I think so, yeah.
Because this is like a whole new step of internet, like a lot of companies have their presence in specific countries, but when it comes to blockchain, it's just like, well, you can be anywhere and everywhere, right? So
precisely.
That I think this is potentially something that even you, as in your sector, are going to
start
experiencing.
Of course, we are very technology based as well at Otmore. We have our own technology tools today to really help out our clients. As I mentioned before, the pre-searching tool and also, for example, watching services that are watching our clients' trademark. So what we can see from what the blockchain is doing with the IP industry at the moment is that they are finding some kind of solutions where you can actually, when it comes to infringements, you can put your trademark within a larger blockchain database, which will actually check against, for example, ads at Alibaba or Taobao, for example, in China, to see if the product is actually correct against the blockchain database. And this is a very early stage at the moment, but it's a very interesting progress when it comes to actually securing our clients' marks in the future, because this will really help out, especially when you are selling physical consumer products. I think that the blockchain technology can change a lot and really help out to differentiate the infringing products from actually the original ones.
Blockchain is a great way to validate that a product is true, that truly it's the original form.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, cool. How do people reach you?
You can go in at otmore.com, otmore.com. And of course we have a little special treatment for your listeners today. So all of you that want to have some help to actually check your name, please contact us through the website, and we will also give you an extra service and 1 hour of consultancy for free.
Great, thank you. That's really generous. Thank you very much. Okay, so also, Jarno, I understand that you're quite frequently in Malta. You're traveling around a lot, but you're quite frequently in Malta.
Yeah.
I do believe that you are here during Malta Blockchain Summit Week, 1st and 2nd of November. Yeah. So if people want to catch up with you then, that you'll definitely be around. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much for coming onto my show, now podcast turned show. Very exciting.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for listening as well.
And have a nice day. Thank you.